lots and lots of information for you. And if you have questions along the way, you can use the chat room, the little chat chat. You can use the chat and you can type questions in there, because we have our fabulous counseling team who is overseeing the chat area. So if a question comes up, they'll let us know and we will answer it through this live broadcast. So, but without further ado, let me introduce Nicole Bernabe, who is our 6th grade counselor.
Hi, everyone.
And she met all of your students, all of you Grizzlies, you actual Grizzlies, when she went to your elementary schools. And families, this might be your first time meeting her. Nicole is the 6th grade counselor, which means that she went out to do all the registration visits. And if you've been emailing with questions about anything, you've been emailing her and she's been answering you, right?
That is correct. And as questions pop up, I will be popping in and out of this screencast to ask Miss Behanna the questions that you all have. So don't hesitate with the questions that you might have on your hearts and in your minds, because we are here for you.
Yes. All right. So she's going to go ahead and show us the slideshow, and we'll click through it, and I'm just going to talk, because I'm really good at that, but interrupt as you need to, definitely. So this is your Gearing Up to be a Grizzly event. Typically we'd be at school, we'd be in the gym, we'd start it off with some great cheers. We're really big on cheering. If you have older brothers or sisters, you know we love to do a good, shout it out with a Rocky Top Rocks kind of cheer. So it won't work online, but you can do it in the privacy of your own home. It's not embarrassing at all. This event also is a time of year where we typically sell spirit gear, because one of the things we love is to see you guys rocking the Rocky Top stuff. Oh, there it is, rocking the Rocky Top stuff. And the spirit gear will be on sale when we're back in session in August. So there'll be an event when you guys will come to the school called Exploring Grizzly Country. You'll realize we like to use sort of the same terms on everything, but during Exploring Grizzly Country, you'll have the opportunity to purchase spirit gear. And right now we have a book fair online right now. If you wanted to check that out, you may have one at your own elementary school as well. So let's go ahead and click to the next slide there, Ms. Bernabe, and we're going to talk about our vision and mission. At Rocky Top, I think the most important thing about how we empower students is that their skills of self-advocacy. So our students are really, really great. Part of it's because of their use of technology, being in a one-to-one environment, but they're really great about reaching out whenever they need any kind of help. So from the very beginning, students start emailing me on a Sunday night saying, hey, is it pajama day tomorrow? Or after the first rounds of conferences, I'll often get emails saying, oh my gosh, my math class, I'm really struggling. How can I get help? And they take those responsibilities on their own, which is wonderful. We also empower them to sort of regulate their own social emotional situations, to pay attention to their own mental health. And we do that by helping them to engage in restorative conversations. We'll talk a little bit later about Bare Necessities, which is a class based on social emotional learning. But we also really focus on teaching students to be upstanders and have that fortitude to report anything that's going on for the betterment of our community. And if you've heard crazy rumors about, like, in middle school, kids get stuffed in lockers, that does not happen. Well, certainly it doesn't happen at Rocky Top. And those are things that you don't have to worry about. And we really do. The Grizzly students take care of each other. They report things that go on in the halls, and we make sure we take care of anything. Academically, we empower students to enter into challenging situations. We encourage kids to be informed risk takers, to try for a 4 when maybe they haven't done something like that before, where they think they've got a concept, but also to academically support themselves, to ask for help, to attend study sessions, those sorts of things. And then our mission, as you can see there, really it's about having a safe and inclusive environment. If you've ever been into the halls of Rocky Top, you know our theory of our sort of motto of everybody in really is how it works. Everybody is included, everybody is welcome. We love diverse perspectives. In fact, we pay a lot of attention to safety. We have a dean of students as well as a school resource officer. And we have a lot of policies and procedures that are all to put our student safety at the forefront of every decision that we make. regarding what's going on in the building or on the grounds, or even outside of school, keeping kids safe. As far as instruction goes, that cutting edge instruction, we are able to personalize learning in a really unique way. This is our 9th year of using Chromebooks in a one-to-one environment, and it really does give us the opportunity to personalize the learning, differentiate for students so that the work that one child gets in a class is different than another child and has maybe more scaffolds in this child's work and more extension activities in this one. And nobody's the wiser, because in middle school, of course, nobody wants to be different. So this gives them the opportunity to just level the playing field as far as that goes. Data analysis is another really important cornerstone of our mission, in that our teachers meet weekly to discuss student achievement data. So the work that kids are turning on a regular basis, and quarterly to look at assessment results, and then of course annually. And then we make instructional decisions based on that for what happens in the classroom. I mentioned risk-taking before, that we have a really democratic school in that if students see something that they believe could be better, could be different, could be more inclusive, we listen. And students, as I said before, have these skills of self-advocacy, so they'll let us know that. I've gotten persuasive letters from clubs before asking for something to change, and we address it, because that's really how things work. So we encourage them to take those risks to speak up for what they need. Part of our mission also is relationships. We have a community of cores. So the school seems really large. There's about 1,200 kids. Next year, there'll be about 1,100. And that's a lot when you're coming from an elementary school that might have 500 or 600 kids. But rest assured, we have community established because we have these core teams. So you, when you come in, new Grizzlies, you will have 4 teachers, language arts, social studies, math, and science, who share the same about 120 kids. So that you'll be in one particular core. There'll be 3 cores at 6th grade. You'll be in one of them. And those 4 teachers are the ones who kind of are a school within a school for you. They take care of you. They're meeting every week. They're saying, hey, how's Nicole's language arts work doing, because in social studies not so great, or hey, did you hear this is what's going on, you know, in this situation for this learner. So they have those conversations. And families, for you, they're a smaller group for a point of contact coming from elementary school to middle school. And you see there's, you know, 6 or 7 teachers, depending on what's going on your child's schedule, and that can be overwhelming. But this core is the place to be, because that's where they really start making those connections. And then we'll talk more about bare necessities later, as I said, for relationships. And then the last thing in our mission that I want to mention is movement and wellness. We require every 6th grader to take health and PE. And that's a novel requirement that we have, but we really feel strongly about it because they aren't required to take a health class until much later in high school. So we make sure every 6th grader has that. And then in 7th and 8th grade, they have the option to sign up for 7th grade, or I'm sorry, year-long PE and health at 7th grade, or year-long at 8th grade. What we do with 6th grade, really, while I'm on it, just to address the elective issue, is that we make sure the kids get a taste of everything. So they're required to take a music class. It can be band, choir, or orchestra. And they're required to take the PE and health, as I mentioned. And then other than that, they take a smattering of each elective class, so the other classes, so that they get a taste of each of them, so that by the time they are registering in 7th grade, they have sort of an idea of what they'd like to enroll in, what they'd like to register in, since they have a choice in 7th grade and in 8th grade. So it's really designed to give them a nice, well-rounded taste of all the elective classes. And then the last thing on that movement and wellness that I wanted to mention is that we're big fans of brain breaks, which I know Grizzlies you do in your elementary classrooms as well. And we focus a lot of our clubs around health and wellness too. We have everything from CrossFit and weightlifting to a wellness club, to some FCS clubs that teach you lifestyle skills around wellness as well.
So one thing that I wanted to address while we're talking about the inclusive community that we have at Rocky Top, generally when we're able to do this event live and in person, we have a special populations breakout afterwards for our families who might be in different populations within the school. So it might be if your child is a part of the Gifted and Talented program, maybe they have a 504 or an IEP. Traditionally, we would have you speak with those different partners to be able to meet the teams. We've asked our different teams to come up with different ideas for this year to help integrate that a little bit into the virtual environment. so that you are able to see in the same fashion that you're seeing us right now, your different teams. In August, during that Exploring Grizzly Country, we will have our teachers in the building as well. They might be setting up their classrooms, so might not be able to talk so much, but we definitely want to make sure that we have the opportunity for you all to meet the teams who are going to be working with your student throughout their middle school time.
Thanks, Ms. Bernabe. We can go on to our next slide about our fellow Grizzlies. And on that slide, you'll see just the names of who we are. We're a fully staffed come one, come all middle school. So we have 2 full-time assistant principals as well as that dean of students I was talking about. That is something for which we allocate funds. Our staff feels strongly about having a dean of students who is a person, a former teacher from within our building. And his job is really to connect with kids. Yes, there's some discipline involved, but it's more about connecting and making those investments in relationships early. And Mr. Sears is skillful at that. As I mentioned, we also have a school resource officer, Officer Jimenez, who does a very similar thing. He's at every lunch duty. He's stealing your ball during Foursquare. He loves to get involved with the kids and joke around so that we can sort of make some deposits and making good relationships along the way. Those office chicas who were mentioned there, Heather Jo and Miss Gines, and we have a couple other people in the office who are great connections for you families, for sure. You'll get very, very familiar with them as you visit the office or call the office, but also for you Grizzlies. Lots of times you make your strongest connections with Miss Evans, or kids do, with Miss Evans, who's the media clerk, or with Miss Johnson, who's the attendance clerk. And those people are all in the office. And the point is that they're making these connections with you on a daily basis to make sure all of your questions are answered. They're still working now too. So families, if there are questions that you have in general about the setup for next year, they can do their best to answer those as well via email or telephone. And then as you met Miss Bernabe, we also have Miss McNiff and Miss Boyke, who are assigned by grade level as counselors. And I think that Ms. Bernabe can talk about a little bit about the counseling office. Is that right?
You bet I can, Miss Behanna. So yeah, as she was explaining, we do have the glory of being able to have 3 different counselors for each grade level. I have the distinct privilege of being the 6th grade counselor for our new Grizzlies, where I get to go, as I did thankfully earlier this year, and was able to go and meet with our feeder elementary schools. I, at that time, kind of described myself as the fairy godmother for their middle school experience in the first year, to help usher them into their year, help ensure that they have a good time, help them kind of figure out what it means to be an adolescent, a teenager. And so that's a really, really fun thing that we get to do. Miss Boyke, Miss McNiff, and I all team up very well together. We all talk about our different students, so that way the transition from year to year is pretty seamless and pretty easy for our students. And we get to work really closely with those core teams to be able to figure out if something's going on academically, what might be going on socially for them, or emotionally, maybe in the home with their family, to maybe give a little bit of context of what's going on. So it's definitely a very fun, engaging way to be able to help support your student and you. As we know, it, especially if this is your first student going into middle school, it can be a tough transition for you as well. And know that you can reach out at any time and we will answer your questions.
Okay, before we go on, I had the chance to check out a couple of the questions in the chat. I just want to address really quickly. First off, if you have any questions about what's covered in a class, I see someone was asking about health class, it's all in the registration packet, and that can all be found online through our counseling tab. There's a registration section on the website, and you can read exactly about what goes on in all of our elective classes and our core classes as well. And then as far as cost for instrument, it is about $25 to $30 a month. And it can be a sliding scale, and it's something that you don't even have to worry about until the first week of school, just like PE shirts, because you'll be required to either purchase or borrow a PE shirt. The uniform for PE class, they get to wear whatever they want on the bottom, shorts or leggings or whatever. But on the top, they all wear the same t-shirt, But t-shirt purchases, instrument rentals, all sort of school supply-ish stuff happens during the first week of school. We don't expect you guys to do any of that over the summer or before you get in there, because the teachers will walk you through exactly how to do that. So let's check out that data slide if we're ready. And this is just because we do, we're confident and we're proud of what our Grizzlies achieve. We know, as I started with, there's so much more that goes into being a great school and having a great school community. This is the result of that. So the academics don't happen on their own. Those academic achievement scores, these growth scores that we're talking about, they happen because of all the other stuff that we have in place. And a lot of it is they happen because of you guys, families, and all of the preparedness that you send your kids to school with, to Rocky Top, and our great feeder elementaries as well. So this is just a little bit of data. This is significant because this is the percentages indicate, for example, in English language arts for this past year, our sixth graders were 14% of them, 14% of them achieved meets or exceeds over the district average for where they expected sixth graders to be. And I share this data to show you that this is everybody in the school. These are special populations. This is everybody in the school. And we still have really, really high achievement because our teachers are so phenomenal about meeting kids where they are and personalizing their learning to ensure that they can make academic growth in each of those areas. Now, of course, moving into next year, we won't have CMAS scores since, you guys might be happy about that we didn't do testing this spring, but we have lots of other ways where we collect academic data about students, as I was mentioning, the day-to-day activities that you do in class, as well as the MAP scores and all of that stuff. So we'll continue in that manner. Next slide, or questions, Ms. Bernabe? All right, our next slide, we're going to talk about, I just saw that comment in there. I got so distracted from Mr. Nguyen that we rock. Thanks. So in the Grizzlies Are Unique slide, I just want to talk about, Ms. Bernabe said that there are some special populations that we have different offerings for, or that we address in different ways. And students on IEPs and 504s, I just want to address that for a second. We have 2 dedicated 504 coordinators, and they're both assistant principals who are well-trained and well-versed in accommodations that come along with 504s. And the system is so well-honed at Rocky Top that they are in constant communication with the core and elective teachers to ensure that they understand the accommodations and what they look like in the classroom setting. That's an important thing. I'm not just glossing over that, because every classroom setting is different. So how a child who has some differences in learning performs in a language arts class where you're typically writing or typing or staying at your desk versus a science class where you're up and moving and pouring chemicals and stuff, those are 2 very different environments. So these 2 dedicated 504 coordinators really help to make sure that each environment meets your child's needs. And then we have a really robust special education department that is, the anchors of that department are longstanding Grizzlies, and they have moved from different core teacher roles in the building into these roles as learning specialists and an SSN teacher and an affective needs teacher, because they're so dedicated to our students and meeting their needs wherever they are. And we have enough learning specialists that we offer some co-teaching classes. So there is a language arts class and a math class, at least 1, sometimes 2 or more at each grade level, where a learning specialist is teaching in that classroom with the general education teacher. And that's not just a class for students who are on IEPs. If your child is coming to us with some deficits in learning, or maybe on a district literacy plan or any of those things, we're going to help them to make growth and resolve any of those sort of deficiencies that they have in their academic experience. And the way we do that is by stacking the deck, kind of by having a low teacher to student ratio, by having them in these co-taught classes. So that's an option that definitely happens. And then we do have a few specialized classes that are just for students who are on individualized education plans. We have an SSN program. All of those students are integrated into all of our classes as well, but we also have a few pull-out classes as well. Our English language learners, they were actually our highest achieving group, our special recipient group last year, because they're so well, all of our kids are so well supported through all core content areas. So what I mean by that is any kid who comes into a classroom, their needs are met, again, through the ability to personalize their learning, but also because our staff is they're synergistic. It's my favorite word, because they're so much better together than separately. And they love to work together, their collaboration. So for example, the English language, ELD teacher, the English language development teacher, that's it, works so closely with our teachers in science, math, social studies, and language arts. That last year, the growth percentile, so how much our students who are English language learners grew, the state average is 50. It was 62% in English language arts, 71% in math, and 71% in science. And that's because our staff just really comes together to make sure all kids have exactly what they need. And then the last category, they're gifted and talented students. We every child is a gift, and all of them are talented. Some of them have a certain testing qualification that puts this label into place. And we actually have a higher percentage of gifted and talented students than the national average. So we're around 16 to 17%. And as a result, and because all of our kids, as I said, come pretty darn prepared, our classes sort of naturally have a really higher level of rigor built into them. But in addition to that, of course, we have each teacher takes very seriously the advanced learning plan that's required for students with gifted and talented status. We also really pay attention to the social emotional needs of gifted students, because that's a totally different category. So we do that through the advanced learning plans, but also through Bare Necessities, as well as having 2 GT coordinators who share out resources through a newsletter. They have a Genius Hour passion projects that they work on as a club. So there's some community building among the students at the same time they're learning some skills. Again, the growth in this the growth in this recipient group is top notch, because we take kids where they are and then still make growth, even if they come in at a very high level. Let's see, before we go to the next slide, Ms. Bernabe.
We do have some questions.
Okay.
A couple of them revolve around electives and the course offerings in general, as well as kind of our philosophy for the exploratory nature of electives and kind of having 6th graders dabble into it.
So
explain that.
Okay. So what we do is we have a wheel of electives, if you will. And as I was saying earlier, when I was saying about PE is required, PE and health, and then choir or band or orchestra, they have a choice in that area. Other than that, they get a taste of all other electives. And the point of that is that they get to select their electives for 7th grade. So we want to make sure that they have a real menu of options and know what those options are, because they've probably never experienced an FCS class, Family and Consumer Sciences. They get to do everything from cooking to sewing to meal planning. I mean, like all these really great things in there, but they won't know what kind of class that is until they experience it through these sort of mini doses throughout 6th grade. Same thing with a makerspace class, an internet skills class, the digital citizenship class. We have a coding class, lots of technology classes. And then of course we have art, 2D and 3D art, as well as another computer applications class. And so we really need kids to, and they even get a snippet of Spanish, so they know whether or not they want to go into take a foreign language their 7th or 8th grade year. So the point is to give them the most sort of robust experience we can, so that when it's time for them to make a choice, they choose based on that class. They know what it really is, not just what they've heard from someone else, their own experiences there. All right. Feel like that's good. All right. So we're going to talk about Grizzlies are savvy. So our Grizzlies are tech savvy. And I want to tell you, there's never a time when I've been more grateful for it than now. I'm super grateful for the fact that though everybody misses everybody. I mean, that's just it. I miss kids so badly. I miss all our staff members so badly. We all do. The thing that I can tell you is that instruction and learning is still going on. Our teachers 9 years ago, as I said, when we started one-to-one learning, really embrace technology, not just as a replacement, like not just like, oh, you could do that with a pencil. Oh, let's just do it on the computer. Not like that. They have moved so far into really technology has transformed the way they teach. It's a very balanced classroom. There's lots of reading and writing on paper that goes on. There's lots of speaking and listening that goes on. There's movement and performance-based things that go on. But the underpinning of classroom organization and management is all through technology. And it's really preparing kids for this world that we're in right now, but also for high school and moving on past high school as well, because they're all skills that we know that they need. They need to learn how to manage a professional email account, which their school account is, versus a personal one. They need to understand how to perform effective internet searches for research purposes versus entertainment purposes, those sorts of things. And those are things we can teach them on a daily basis. As well as that, our teachers are really in this sort of 2.0 world with the kids, where they are engaging with the internet in a way that they're reading and writing, they're creating content online. So our kids do a lot of creation. They're creating web pages, podcasts, databases that are used in real life simulations, those sorts of things. So it's not, it's much more than just using it as a word processing device or something like that. Our teachers are incredibly creative. We have many sets of Google VR goggles, and I was in a classroom right before winter break, actually, where they were getting ready to read a piece from Charles Dickens, and prior to reading it, the teacher had them take a tour of Charles Dickens' home in England. And then what was awesome about it is when the kids were reading, this was 7th grade, and when the kids were reading about Charles Dickens in a nonfiction piece all about his life, they were able to reference that and say, well, yeah, I remember what I saw in the museum when we took the tour of it, that kind of thing. So, and that's just one example off the top of my head about how the teachers integrate technology really into what the kids do. I mentioned earlier that it helps them to personalize learning. The teachers use learning management systems of Google Classroom or Schoology. Most of them use Google Classroom. And what happens in that way is that when they, say, for example, Mr. Bogaki, a 6th grade science teacher who's a nutter and so much fun, when he sends out an assignment, if there's 3 of us sitting together, we could all 3 have very different versions of that same assignment, because this person might need more scaffolding than I do, and this person might need more enrichment than I do. But we know we're all talking about the same topic. We just don't see how the other person's inputting in the computer or what other supports they have. And it really allows for differentiation in the classroom in a really beautiful way. As I said, it's a blended environment. We do plenty on paper and in movement. In school, kids are very safe. I know they are in your elementaries as well, because we have a really great filter system. Because we sort of started into this early, we were the bleeding edge, maybe, if you will, the cutting edge school. So we pushed IT a lot on how to get the right routers and filters and everything into our school to make it the safest environment for kids, but also the most effective, to make sure that they have all the connection speed that they need and bandwidth that they need to be able to be connected. They will take obviously you'll provide their Chromebook, and they'll take their Chromebook from home to school, and the teachers will help them at the beginning of the year to understand the rules around that one of their homework assignments every night is to charge their Chromebook, and then they bring it to class, and they don't use it all day, but they'll need to carry it around with them, of course. While I'm on this one, I had glanced over here and I saw a question somebody had about cell phones. Because you have your Chromebooks, and they can take pictures that you need in class, they can do video that you might need for class or any of those things, you don't need your cell phone in school at all. Every classroom has a telephone, and then down in the office, we have a telephone, obviously, as for student use as well. And your families are encouraged to call the main office if they want to get you a message, or for you to call from a classroom if you need to speak with your families during the day. What we do is that if we don't want to see it, is the bottom line. So we encourage you to leave it in your locker all day, and then you can check it at the end of the day to see if there's any different plans about how to get home or anything like that. But we know many kids like to carry it with them. So they might put it in their pencil case or their Chromebook case, or even in a pocket so it's out of sight. And we're not going to bug you about that. If you have it out in the hall, we're going to bug you. You can't do that at all. So you can't have it out at lunch. You can't have it out in electives, your core classes, or anything. But if you feel better having it on you, that's perfectly fine too. But you'll have access through your Chromebook to your calendar and your email and all of that. So it's not something that you'll need on a daily basis. Questions, Ms. Bernabe? None? All right. This slide actually is in the registration packet as well. So online you can find this, and these are just the specifications of the device with which your child should be prepared at the beginning of the school year. So it's really the only school supply they need. You know, some paper and pencils just to start the school year, definitely good. But basically this is it. This is what you have to purchase for them. And a Chromebook is the easiest thing to purchase, number one, because the price point is so low. But the second thing being that they're quick to connect to the internet and to disconnect when they move from class to class. They're not like a traditional laptop where you have to open it up and has to boot up and go through all this stuff, because the kids, as I said, are closing them frequently and then reopening them later as they do different activities and move, that blended classroom piece. It's also really important that it fit in their locker, because as I said, we're really focused on safety in our school. And if it doesn't fit on the shelf of that locker, it makes it really difficult for kids to move about the building, because they would have to have it with them at all times. And they, like at lunch, they don't take their school supplies to lunch. Many times if they have a performance-based elective like PE or even in makerspace, sometimes they don't need them. And so having it fit in their locker is a really important thing. We also encourage kids to always have it in a case of some sort, a Chromebook case. And that is just a case that is just larger than the Chromebook itself. That's not like a massive laptop bag. It's not a big padded backpack or anything like that, because at Rocky Top, we don't carry anything like that into our classrooms. Number one, there's not space for it, but number two, it's a safety thing. So we like for you only to be carrying your Chromebook in its case. It's thin little case, either in your hand, or if it has a strap on it, that's fine. Just a small case. And you could fit a couple of pencils in there with you, and that little cell phone. If you want to take it with you too, you can stash it in there. And that's all you'll need to be able to go into classes. Let's see, any questions before we go on? Ms. Bernabe, we're good? Okay.
There are no questions. However, there are a couple of shout outs. Mr. Bogucki wanted everyone to know that he is also watching in, was grateful for the shout out, and really is excited to meet all the students. So no questions, but we appreciate all of the appreciation we're getting in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. We've still got a couple of more slides to go. Don't go anywhere, guys.
Yay, glad to hear. Our Grizzlies are well-rounded, and one of the ways that we make sure that we attend to what I mentioned earlier about our vision for their skills of social emotional fortitude and their skills of self-advocacy, those are really honed through our Bare Necessities class. And this is our second year of that. We'll continue next year. It's a class that on your schedule, I'm just going to prepare you, it's going to say 0 and it's going to say personal development. And you're going to be like, what is this class? But it only meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's how you'll start your day, your first 30 minutes or so of your day. You'll start with your Bare Necessities class. That class is designed to be a low student ratio, so that teacher-student ratio, so that there's only about 20 kids for every teacher, because every teacher teaches it at the same time. You'll only be with your grade level classmates, so it's only a 6th grade class, but you might be with a teacher who's not one of your core teachers. So for example, you might be in a core and Mr. Bogucki is your science teacher in your core, but for Bare Necessities, you have Miss Eubanks, another science teacher, who's your Bare Necessities teacher. And that's cool and fun because you get to meet some other 6th grade teachers. You'll also be, that's the only time besides electives when you'll be in classes kind of mixed up with other kids. So you could have kids in your Bare Necessities class who are not in your core. That class is very fun. We follow a prescribed curriculum at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade that is differentiated based on grade level. So for 6th grade, which you're focused on right now, it's a mix of something called Top 20, and that's about executive functioning skills, how to get organized, how to regulate your emotions and your moods, how to look at the world through a different perspective, those sorts of skills. And it's infused with kindness in the classroom. And that's a random acts of kindness curriculum as well. And so that one is a little bit more project-based, going out and doing acts of kindness, writing kind notes and taking them somewhere. Many of the Bare Necessities classes do projects where they make something and then deliver it somewhere at the end of the year. But that class is just all about first learning about the inside job, like what do you need to do to present yourself in a really productive way as a 6th grader, and then learning what impact can this really good version of you have on the world, our school community and the greater community. And as you move into 7th and 8th grade, they infuse it's always the top top 20 curriculum that is the underpinning, and then they infuse at the other grade levels with a variety of other activities that help you stay engaged, but also the conversation gets a little deeper as the year goes on, when people start to really get to know each other and talk about things that they're discovering about themselves, or emotions that they're having trouble regulating, that sort of thing. And they can be really powerful discussions. Our mental health center is another way that we ensure our Grizzlies are well-rounded. And I think that Ms. Bernabe is going to come back and talk about this.
Oh, wait.
You go. Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to mention what, Chelsea?
I told you I love to talk. I can't stop. But no, what I was going to say is that we also were able to allocate funds to get a full-time social worker this year. So that's a really big deal. So feel free to mention that too, Ms. Bernabe. I'll button my lip.
Yes, as she mentioned, we are a beautifully staffed mental health center filled with each grade level counselor, so 6th, 7th, 8th again, and now a full-time social worker, which we are very grateful to have, as well as a full-time school psychologist who works with our students in the special education department. Our focus, our desire is to be there as a sounding board and support for the families, not just with the students. Like I said earlier, we are very well connected with the community, both community resources, our families, as well as our teachers. Even right now, as we were doing this presentation, a couple of other teachers wanted to chime in that they are also here too, wanting and excited to support your students. So thanks, Ms. Bishop and Ms. Higgins and all of our other 6th grade teachers, because we are all here to support you. So as something comes up, whether that be in the classroom, maybe in the cafeteria, your student comes home and says, hey, something not okay happened, or my friend who used to be my best friend isn't really talking to me anymore. And if you are trying to figure out how to help them navigate that, that is also a great time to reach out to one of us to help you kind of go through that. We have a lot of connections within the building with our students. We have lunch duty. We go out and join recess. Sometimes we'll pop in and listen in on classes. Sometimes we teach classes to the students as well. We have our own curriculum that we go through, and we are there for all of the things. If there's ever a question that you have and you don't know who to go to, and maybe you want to start with the office chicas, or maybe you still have a different question and then you want to come to us, we are here to answer all of the questions. Our primary focus, especially as counselors, is the academic, personal, social, and career development. And that will be a lot of the different reasons that we go into the classrooms to help your students. Ms. Behanna, back to you in 3, 2, 1.
All right, what a countdown. The last thing on this slide is about Grizzlies Give Back 2.0. So today was the first day that we actually even announced this, how we're going to do Grizzlies Give Back this year, because typically this is our week of philanthropy. Years ago, we decided that this was the most important thing to do for our community because there were so many students in need of school supplies, families that couldn't afford a Chromebook, families that couldn't afford to send their kids to the science camp, the sleepaway science camp that we do called Camp Grizz. We provide gifts that families can give to their children at the holiday time, scholarships for kids for summer activities, and meals and gift cards for families who are in need throughout the year. So this is our big fundraiser to be able to generate those funds. In years past, we've gotten $25,000, which seems like a lot. And this year, because we do anticipate that there's going to be even greater need next year as a result of the public health crisis and the economic impact that this is having. So we're really going to hit this hard as a Grizzlies Give Back 2.0 virtual fundraiser for our families. And we'd love for our upcoming Grizzlies to get involved in many ways too. And one of the ways will be to watch online as we do something super fun that we announced today that'll be a virtual dunk tank. So as our current Grizzlies donate money to the Grizzlies Give Back Fund, they'll get to vote for which teacher gets to be dunked in the virtual dunk tank, which will really look like them going outside and someone dunking big buckets on their heads, which will be super fun. So there's lots of ways for you to get involved. We typically do a dodgeball tournament. We have, and we do lots of things that are in the in-person Grizzlies Give Back that we won't be able to do this year, but it's really important that we generate these funds for our upcoming families as well. So we'd love for you to take a look at that when you have a chance. We're ready for the next slide. Before I tell you about all these great ways we communicate, I made some notes as I was talking about things that we would typically talk about, or you would typically talk about when you're in the sixth grade teachers' classrooms if we were doing this as a live in-person event. So I just want to address a couple of them, and you'll learn more closer to the start of the school year, of course, because we'll give you lots of things via email and we'll give you the opportunity to come into school. But a couple of things. One of the biggest things I can tell you for preparation is to go get a combination lock, from an old combination lock or one from Ace Hardware or something, and practice the left, right, left. The biggest thing students struggle with is knowing which way to start the combination. And so if they can practice that, obviously your combination numbers are going to be different when you get to school. But if you can at least practice how to do it, you're going to be ahead of the game when you get there in the fall. Also, we will really encourage you to get involved in clubs. We have so many clubs. I think now we're up to like 28 clubs, and many of them are even still being offered virtually. And like I was mentioning, the CrossFit Club, the Sewing Club, our Power of Positivity Club is doing a activity this week. I think tomorrow afternoon they meet, and they're doing an activity to reach out to folks in nursing homes who can't have visitors right now. We have an anime club. We have intramurals. If you're into sports, we have those clubs as well. So there's pretty much anything that you could desire. And to introduce all of those to you, in the fall, we'll have a clubs and activities fair. So that's a really fun day. It's a Wednesday afternoon because on Wednesdays we get out early, and you'll go into the cafeteria with your families. They're welcome to come too. And we'll have booths set up all around the cafeteria where you can go and learn about all the different clubs of which you can be a part. So that's a really cool activity. That did just remind me to tell you, which you may not know, that our school day is 8:30 to 3:45. Unless the bell schedule changes. So I should probably not wade into that because I haven't heard anything from the district. But right now it's 8:30 to 3:45. And what happens is that you can come onto campus and you're supervised starting at 8:20. So families, if you need to drop off your kids a little bit early, that's fine. And then at 3:45, the students are released. The only times that you'll be in the hall, Grizzlies, sixth grade Grizzlies, with 7th and 8th graders is that beginning and end of the day. Otherwise you eat lunch on your own, all your classes are on your own, so you don't have to worry about running into big kids. You have your own bathrooms upstairs in the hallway and everything like that. So that's a pretty cool deal. That was a sort of sideline that I wasn't going to say, but also bikes and scooters. We encourage you, your family's always welcome to drive you, and we love walkers as well. But if you're biking or scootering, we have bike racks and scooter racks at the back of the building, as well as in the front of the building in the lobby. You can put skateboards and scooters in a protected area, which is a pretty cool thing. I talked about lunchtime, that it's only sixth graders. And usually those first 2 to 3 days, it's a little slow getting through the lunch line if you're buying hot lunch, just because people have to remember to get in the flow. You know, it's your same lunch number, but it's not hard, but it's just different because it's such a big cafeteria. But after that, you're for sure going to have at least 15 minutes to play outside each day after you eat. And we have everything from kickballs to jump ropes. We have tetherball, all kinds of fun stuff. Mr. Sears, the dean of students, loves to get different playground equipment. We don't have an actual playground, but there's basketball hoops and there's a field over there, and he just likes to get other things that you can use to keep yourself busy during lunchtime, get a little sunshine before you head on back into the building. And I think the last bit of advice I have before we get to more questions is the other thing you can practice over the summer is how to say out loud whatever your strength words are. So what I can tell you is that, as I said, we encourage all our kids to be upstanders, and 99% of them are. So if something's happening in the hall, somebody's reporting it, you don't have to worry about it. You tell your teachers, they take care of it. If they can't take care of it, they tell someone in the office. But the other thing about sixth grade is there's this sense of freedom. You're in the hallway, you're with, another 349 kids. And a lot of times kids will just like yell out a bad word just because they can. It's weird. I don't know why. Or they might like throw something on the floor, or they might even say something mean to somebody else. And if you, over the summer, while you're practicing your combination locks, could practice out loud whatever your words of strength are, how you square up in a situation and say something strong, then you'll be armed with the skills you need to come in. And what I mean by that is something that feels real to you. So not saying like, I am going to report you to the office, because that probably doesn't feel legit to you, right? But what you could say is, gosh, that's terrible. Why would you say that? Ugh. Or wow to your friend, like, come on, let's get out of here. Practicing those things ahead of time, honestly, even though it sounds really goofy coming from me, is super helpful, because then if you've practiced them, they'll come more naturally when situations arise. Let me tell you on this slide, these are all the ways we communicate with you. We also have a Twitter account, which I'm super bad at keeping up. I know Mr. Oliver's great, but I try to get better. Maybe next year, you never know. But, and we have a student council has an Instagram account as well. And then News from the Top is probably the most informative thing that you can do for yourself, is to read that every Friday, or at least over the weekend, because we put in lots of information about what's going on in the school. We highlight some instructional stuff that's happening in the school, as well as any events that are coming up, any safety things that we're concerned about, all of that stuff. You can check that out as well. We have lots of workshops when you first come in at the beginning of the school year. Families will have a Getting Connected at Rocky Top workshop, where you'll bring your child's Chromebook, and we're going to show you all the ins and outs of it, how to monitor their Google Classroom, all of that stuff. So you won't be behind it all on that. We'll set you up at the beginning of the year. And then we'd love for you to be involved either with our PTO or on our school improvement team. And if those don't work for you with your schedule, I know it doesn't work for my daughter's school, I can't do that, but there are lots of other ways for you to be connected, and we always want to talk to you and hear from you.
Chelsea, I'm wondering if they did want to get involved with the PTO or the school improvement team, how might they do that?
That is a great question, Ms. Bernabe, and I believe I know an answer. I think there might be a place where, well, here's what I know, and then you can correct me. But I know that whenever we have a school improvement team meeting, I put it in News from the Top and say, hey, do you want to be involved in this? Come on along. And then our PTO, they oftentimes put in whenever there's, we always put in whenever there's a meeting, and then they have a PTO, Rocky Top PTO email address, so people can email to get involved that way. And I also believe there is a space to sign up as a volunteer on our website, some button you can push, and then you're on this list, so that then we call you and say, hey, we heard you want to volunteer, come on along. Was that the right answer? Okay.
Yes, and I will include in the chat the email address for our Rocky Top PTO. So if you want to get involved with that parent group, you absolutely can. They are a force to be reckoned with, and our lives have been changed in our school because of their wonderful use and joy in being and working with us. So I'll include their email there so that you can get in contact with them in that way.
Mm-hmm. And we have just a few minutes left for other questions. So if there's something burning, be sure to get it over here in the chat, because we're looking at that. Other things I can tell you, just like your current principal is telling you, we don't know anything about the end of the year or the beginning of the year. We don't know when we can get back in the building. We're planning right now full steam ahead. So we have some dates set up already for when the Exploring Grizzly Country will be, and we'll start sharing that information with you. We'll make sure that that's well before school starts, and during that time, you'll be able to come in, Grizzlies, and decorate your locker, or just put your stuff in your locker if you're cooler than the decorating. Although I have seen like the disco balls and all that, so feel free to go all out. You have your own locker, I should say that. You don't share lockers at Rocky Top, and you don't ever give somebody else your combination. But you can come in and decorate your locker. You can bring in some school supplies. Oh, we're getting a bunch of questions. And then also you at that time can tour the building and go to all your classes and figure out like, okay, from here I'll go here. You'll see when you get in there. If you haven't had a sibling there, I can tell you when you get there, you have 4-minute passing periods, which doesn't seem like a lot, but your classrooms are literally like from what in your home, from your bedroom to the kitchen. It's not that far. So you'll have time to go take your stuff to your social studies class and then go to the bathroom, or just stand around and socialize in the hall, which is really what the kids do mostly. The volunteering opportunities is coming. The question is going to be answered for that. And let's see. And so that tour of the school that I was talking about, that'll be Exploring Grizzly Country. And I'm going to look up the date and tell you while Ms. Bernabe says something else.
Yeah, so while she's looking that up, it generally is a day or two before the first date of school for the sixth graders, and it's only open to sixth graders. They'll have their schedule at that time, so they'll be able to know where their core classes are, where their locker is, so they can come in, set up their locker, go walk around the school to see where their school classes are going to be. If they want a more formal tour, we will have some of our student leaders available to be able to give more formal tours as well. And yeah, that's kind of the main one. The other big piece before she tells you that date is a more prominent date, which is tomorrow by 4 p.m. is when we would love for you to have your music requests in by. That is all done through Infinite Campus. In yesterday's email, you had the video to be able to have as a tutorial where this wonderful voice talked you through how to do it, as well as a step-by-step process in the registration packet. If you are having a difficult time logging into Infinite Campus, feel free to email either myself or Veronica Reich, our registrar, and we can help you through that process. Miss Behanna.
And so that's for signing up for choir or band or orchestra. So she was just saying, just check out our website for the registration details for that. I saw someone else asking that. On Monday, August 17th, there'll be 2 different time frames. I haven't actually checked this with PTO, so I know some of you are out there. Mark your calendars, because the PTO helps us. We do a morning time frame and an afternoon time frame. During that time, you would bring your students in, your children in, and they could decorate their lockers, drop off any school supplies, take the tour of the building during that time. And that's when Miss Bernabe was saying there would be National Junior Honor Society kids who would help out with that. Somebody asked a question about drawstring bags. What we do allow kids to take into class is just a Chromebook case. So not a backpack, not a drawstring backpack, anything like that. It's a Chromebook case you either carry in your hand, or it can be something that you can carry on your shoulder, but it has to just be the case of the Chromebook. And I know that might sound nitpicky, but we have to draw a line somewhere or it gets really confusing. So that's what we have them bring in. That, yes, sign up for choir by tomorrow. The schedules will come out obviously before the 17th, because that's the day we'll have you guys coming in, but the schedules should come out around the 3rd-ish of August when we're back. We'll have them mostly finished by the time we go into summer break. And then when we come back in the fall, there's lots of shifts that happen. We finish all those fixes right at the end of July when we come back. And then that very first week of August, you'll receive an email from me that'll have your schedule, and it'll have frequently asked Grizzly questions. So that'll help you to figure out everything from the parking lot to how you get your lunch money to where you put your bike, that kind of thing. And it'll also have any forms that you need to sign for if you want to get involved in intramurals or anything like that. It'll all be in that same email. We'll get that all sent to you, and then you just come with any papers you need. As far as school supplies, the Chromebook truly is the only required school supply, and it's a big one. So that's why it's the only truly required school supply. We do recommend that kids have some pencils and paper with them. It's always a good idea too to sort of wait until you talk to your teachers that first week of school if you want to find out what you need. There will be, if teachers are asking for something specific beyond the Chromebook, like sometimes math classes ask for graph paper or something like that, that will also be in the letter that comes, the email letter that comes out to you. And usually midsummer, those get posted at like Office Depot and Target and Walmart and all of that stuff. So it looks like that's the registration. I'm going to point, I can't do it. It's like looking in a mirror. That's the registration page that she's showing right there. So that's where you can go and look at the tutorial for signing up for your choir or band or orchestra classes right there. The lunch number is the same. Am I right, you guys who have older kids? I'm pretty sure it's the same.
It is indeed the same, as is your student's email address. If they're in Adams 12, their student information will stay the same.
Okay. I would say also that as I was talking about with the Grizzlies Give Back fundraiser, if your family is experiencing hardship and as the school year begins and you're unable to get a Chromebook, we can work out a plan to help you do that. You'll just need to contact our office manager, and all of that information will be in the thing that we send out that first week of August as well. So we'll help you figure out all of those details. And I think we have 5 minutes left. This has gone really well. Thanks for all the good stuff you guys are saying. I mean, live from my kitchen. We also have, you could look at our Rocky Top website and see the news from the tops. I think probably have the YouTube link in them, or maybe even on our Facebook page. But we're running, we have a YouTube channel where we're doing our daily announcements. So that's a fun way. Oh, look, she's showing us. She's so skillful. Showing us our Rocky Top website. And that's a fun way for you to know what's going on. You can check out the news from the tops that we have now. So you can kind of see what our style of communication is. And then if you're up for a hoot, you can check out our daily announcements because they're fun. They look a lot like this, but with the flag, we do the pledge and all of that stuff. One day Dolores Umbridge came, and one day Darth Vader came as a guest. We've had a few guests in there. So those are pretty cool. Right now we're having Spirit Week. Today was I Love My Pet Day. And so I got to post pictures of my cat and dog. And then tomorrow is I Miss Sports Day. So check out all of our social media stuff for that. And where are some skills and habits you feel you can work on to finish this year strong? Oh, let me address that in the few minutes we have left. Don't worry is my first thing in addressing that. Because what I can honestly say is your kids, you send your kids to us so well prepared. The elementaries do a great job, and you as family members do a great job. Our sixth graders already come in all the time, really top notch. Next year, we know they're still going to come in top notch compared to every other school in the district, but we also know that's going to be a notch lower than maybe they have in the past, because getting new information, taking a new learning big concepts like they would have learned in the spring of their fifth grade year, that's really hard to do in this remote learning environment. So we're going to give the kids grace in the fall to say that we realize there's going to be some remediation that needs to happen, whether it's math, language arts, whatever class it is. There will be time and attention paid to getting kids up to speed. Nobody is going to be at a deficit if they are struggling in this online learning environment. I can tell you that right now. The only thing that they need to practice over the summer really is their combination and working on their skills of self-empowerment. We do encourage the kids to read 30 minutes every day because it helps all facets of their brain. So I'm sure you're doing that. Break away from a screen and actually turn a page. That would be good in preparation. But other than that, we don't expect them to do anything to prepare to come, because we will meet them where they are and they will fly academically. I can guarantee you that. Let's see, taking the bus, you'll get information again that first week of school. We'll send you information about how to go get your bus pass. If your child already has their bus pass from elementary school, well, they might not write it. Anyway, there'll be information in there for you to go to transportation and get a bus pass. They let them on the first week without it, so you don't have to stress about that. And Heather, Joe, and other people who work in the office, they can talk to you even now about what bus your kid would be riding and where the bus stop will be and all of that stuff. They can help you figure all that out in preparation for next year. And you can play sports in the form of intramurals at any grade. So you can start in sixth grade. We have 4 sports seasons, but we don't have any interscholastic sports. So they're intramural. They're only, you're playing against other kids within our school. That's the same with all middle schools in Adams 12. So I think that's all those questions. Oh, my kids eat a lot. Middle schoolers eat a lot. And we don't have a firm policy about snacks. Science classes typically are in snack zone simply because they're working with other materials. That could be different depending on who your science teacher is or what's going on for the week. And then it's on a teacher by teacher basis. So a lot of times they start the year with saying, sure, you can have snacks. And then if the kids don't clean up, or you're real piggies, or you make a lot of mouth noises or something like that, they might be like, no, 4th hour. No snacks for you, or whatever. But yeah, send your kids with snacks. They'll have plenty of time to eat snacks. And as I said, that 4-minute passing period is eons long once they get the hang of things. So they'll have time for that too. So I think we're good.
Yeah, I'm just going to sneak in here and give a special thanks to our students who are watching with their families, our families who are watching with their students, our 5th grade teachers who are tuning in to make sure that their 5th grade students get all of the great info, and our 6th grade teachers and anywhere in between. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We had a ball of a time, and we hope you did too.
Bye. Bye.